Good afternoon, everyone. It is the top of the hour. Thank you for joining us today for our quarterly statewide update call. We have updates from various team members on the school nutrition team, as well as Marissa Spady with No Kid Hungry. We are recording today's webinar and we will be posting it online for viewing later, and we will also send out a recap email. If you have questions, please put those in the chat and we will answer them at the end of today's webinar. Bill, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Randa. Appreciate it. Welcome to the call today. Glad you made time in your day to join us at the state agency for some updates. I am Bill Byford, School Nutrition State Director, and we'll get going. So our Best for All strategy, we always reside in the student readiness section there, where we equip all kids, all students, all 1 million K-12 students statewide in their non-academic pursuits towards their career pathways. And our mission here in the state agency is to develop extraordinary school nutrition professionals and provide strategies to increase consumption of healthy school meals. Our agenda today. So I'll give you some updates from my perspective around our milk supply chain issues that we're having in Middle and East Tennessee. I'll give you some additional state agency updates. We will hear from Dr. Dawes around mid-year CEP elections and extensions to that. Our direct certified matching updates. We've got some updates for today. So I know we've had, I put something out on listserv a little bit earlier today to tell you to hold off on matching. I think we've identified what the issue is. And it's only really impacting a few districts statewide at this point. If it is just spinning and you're trying to work in it, it is impacting you. If you have done some matching this morning, we've seen plenty of districts who've done matching this morning and all of the records took. So, you know, like I said, it's impacting some folks and some folks it's not. How you know it's impacting you is it's not working. So if it worked for you earlier this morning, we've checked a lot of that data and you're fine with what you've done today. But if it's just sitting there spinning, it's impacting you. And Dr. Dawes will address a little bit of that later. Unanticipated school closures, weather event updates. We've got a new standard operating procedure around that. Randa will talk to us a little bit about that later. Give us some updates on our director showcases. I know those are happening statewide in several locations, so we want to discuss that for a minute. Leslie, our First Tennessee field support consultant, is going to help us with a district highlight today. We appreciate that. And then Marlia will talk to us about some grant updates, Farm to School Month highlights, and community partner updates with Marissa at the end from No Kid Hungry. So some of my director updates. First, milk supply chain issues. So we know that's impacting the two grand divisions of East and Middle. It doesn't seem to be bleeding over into the West Tennessee area at this time. Obviously, the vendors impacted here are Mayfield and Purity. We had a webinar last week with Cindy Cooper and the Dairy Alliance and some of her stakeholders. I know that was very informative. We sent out the link to that in our weekly newsletter. So that went out, I believe, yesterday. So make sure if you missed that, you can go back and listen to that recording. Basically, we gave recommendations down the line. And when it came to me, my recommendations were obviously anytime that we can provide milk and stay within the pattern, we want to do that. Obviously, there's three different avenues as far as if you can't do that, as far as procurement of goods and services there. A lot of people have shelf-stable milk in your current bid. If that is an avenue that you want to investigate, then if it's currently there, you can do that. If it's not, then you've got three options. Obviously, a micro purchase, small purchase, and then a emergency procurement, depending on what your thresholds are at the local level. That will be a micro purchase or a small purchase. So that guidance is a little bit different per district because those thresholds are different per district. So make sure you're in communications with your fiscal folks at the local level and make sure those thresholds are met for compliance sake. From my perspective as well, we want to keep our farmers in business. So just giving up and getting a waiver is we want you to explore all your avenues before that waiver is actually delivered, and I'm going to sign those waivers. It's not that we don't want to do that. We just want to explore all the different avenues before we move on to another beverage other than milk. We know kids prefer that flavored milk, so remember that variety of milk does not have to include flavored milk. Low fat and fat-free unflavored milk would satisfy the milk requirement without a waiver, so keep that in mind as well. Maybe kids don't like that type of milk. I know mine don't. They seem to like the whole milk, but in the absence of whole milk, we obviously would prefer to continue to stay in the milk family. Obviously, if you have explored all avenues and you need a waiver, I will grant those waivers on a case-by-case basis, but I have not turned one down yet. I just want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to continue to supply that milk if we at all possibly can. State agency updates. So you'll notice some title changes here for a lot of state agency folks, and that is interdepartmental. It does not impact the work. I know when my boss and I were having a conversation about this, and she said, "Look, I've told you about this several times." And I said, I don't really think about the titles. I just think about the work. So I'll get it at some point, but when we change these titles, it's confusing on the front end for folks like me because I'm more fixated on all the things that we're doing and not necessarily what you call us. So I did want to give you a state agency update on our Upper Cumberland Regional Senior Coordinator. That's a new title. It's our field service person in the Upper Cumberland. So that we have lost our former person in that role. And we have posted that job. We interviewed several outstanding candidates and we've made a selection. I'm not at liberty today to discuss who that is because I don't think we've communicated with everybody that interviewed, and I would hate for them to find out that they either got the job or didn't get the job on today's call. But we have made our decision, and we'll be reaching out to all of those candidates and saying thank you for your interest or congratulations and welcome to the team. Obviously, we've had some other adjustments here over the past month. So our senior budget coordinator, who was Jasmine Taylor, has now taken a job on a different team here at TDOE. Sharon Jordan, many of you know Sharon over the years. She has slid over into that budget coordinator role, and we look forward to her in that role moving forward. So that's an adjustment. Sharon.jordan@tn.gov. If you have any fiscal inquiries there, that would be your contact. And then Andrew McCluskey, longtime exemplary employee here at TDOE, has decided to hang it up. I'm very jealous about that. And anybody with 30 years plus knows that feeling. So I think he thought it was time to hang it up, and we hope he enjoys his retirement. That data TMAC administrator position will be available. It is not currently posted, as I am in the process of filling out all that paperwork, but it will be posted here in the coming weeks, and we look forward to adding another teammate on the state team in that perspective. So those are my updates for today. You see my contact information. I actually do answer emails and answer phone calls. If I don't answer a phone call, I'm on it. So I try to be as responsive as I can. I hope you feel that out in the districts and this team as well. Those are my updates today. I'm going to kick it over to Dr. Dawes, and she's going to talk to you about her piece today.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I am Sandy Dawes. I'm the Senior Compliance and Special Projects Manager for TDOE School Nutrition Programs. Today, I'm going to provide you with some information on the CEP final rule allowing SFAs or your schools or your groups of schools or the entire district with an ISP of 25% or greater to elect to operate CEP for school year 23-24. And then I'm going to provide you some updates on the new DC state matching module in TMAC. As I said, I am Sandy Dawes, Senior Compliance Director for Special Projects, and something happened to my screen here, Randa. So if I get off target here, Randa, can you hear me?
Yeah, we've got you. You're on the
we can hear
community
you.
eligibility provision slide here.
Okay. Something happened to my computer and everything just disappeared that you were sharing with me, Randa. But anyway, so let's start with the CEP elections and extensions. So CEP has been available in Tennessee for your districts to use out there for approximately 10 years. The community eligibility provision, or what most of us refer to as CEP, is an option for eligible schools to offer meals at no cost to all enrolled students without collecting household free or reduced income application. It was authorized by the Hungry Free Kids Act of 2010 and codified in regulations at 7 CFR 245.9F. CEP is a reimbursement alternative for eligible local education agencies and schools participating in both the National School Lunch Program and the School Breakfast Programs. CEP eliminates the need for schools to collect household income applications by sharing eligibility data between specific federal assistance programs, which can be reduced a burden for you districts out there, the administrative burdens for both your schools and for your families. So what is the identified student percentage, ISP, when qualifying for CEP? The ISP is the percentage of enrolled students who are certified for free school meals without submitting a household application. The ISP would include students living in households participating in Supplemental Nutrition Programs, SNAP, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, TANF, and Federal Distribution Program on Indian Reservations, FDPIR. The ISP also will include those who are homeless, migrant, runaway, in foster care, or enrolled in Head Start. Beginning school year 23-24 in Tennessee, it also includes students certified for free meals through Medicaid. Students certified for reduced meals through Medicaid are not included in your ISP and cannot be used when calculating CEP percentages. On September 26, 2023, FNS released SP 22-2023, Community Eligibility Provision implementing the new minimum identified student percentage. The purpose of the memo was to inform state agencies and LEAs about changes made to the community eligibility provision. Increasing the options for schools it was published on September 26, 2023. The final rule amends CEP regulations by lowering the minimum identified student percentage ISP from 40% to 25%. Lowering this minimum ISP will give states and LEAs greater flexibility to offer no-cost meals to all enrolled students if financially viable. This memo provides a general overview of the rule and clarification on when the minimum ISP becomes effective. Additionally, on October 5th, USDA provided a webinar for all SFAs focused on the final rule for CEP. To be eligible for CEP, an individual school, group of schools, or LEA must meet or exceed the established minimum ISP in the school year prior to implementing CEP. The final rule lowered the minimum ISP from 40% to 25%. Because this was codified in regulations after the previous year April 1 deadline for calculating ISP, USDA is allowing states to submit a waiver allowing SFAs to elect CEP mid-year. If you are already operating CEP, you are not eligible for CEP mid-year election. So even though the ISP has been lowered, the multiplier of 1.6 has not changed. So what does that mean for an LEA that now meets the 25% ISP and is considering CEP? To operate CEP, you must operate both breakfast and lunch and provide meals to the kids at no charge. The LEA will only be reimbursed at the free and the paid reimbursement rates for LEA school or group of schools with an ISP of 25%, and you multiply it by the multiplier 1.6, you would get 40%, meaning that 40% of your kids that ate a meal would get reimbursed at the free rate. The other 60% of the kids that ate a meal you would get reimbursed at the paid rate. So I did a little bit of math here. I know that 100 is not a reasonable number, but it's an easy number. So I use that when doing this calculation. You will want to use the number that you have for your enrollment and your ISP when doing this, and so on and so forth. And we're happy to help with this if you need it. So for a better perspective on how this reimbursement may pan out for you, using an ISP of 25% and then multiplying by 1.6%, I get 40. So I'm going to use an enrollment of 100 students and an ISP of 25%. So using those numbers, your total reimbursement for lunch would be $200, or on average $2 for each lunch meal. Your total reimbursement for breakfast would be $114, or an average of $1.14 per breakfast. This is very simple math. I use very small numbers, which do not reflect your real numbers out there in the districts. I do realize this, but we also have a resource guide that you can use made available by USDA that has an estimator tool where you can actually use your data and input this information and determine your reimbursements for if you're going to operate CEP. Here is a link to those resources. There are multiple resources out there. Many of you are familiar with CEP and know a lot about it, but if you want to learn more, here are resources. And also, as I stated earlier, the estimator tool is available for you, and you can use that when calculating these reimbursement rates and what you may and may not receive. You could use your meal counts for previous months and do some projections using that tools, whichever works for you. And also, if you need some help, please reach out and we're happy to help you. So you also need to realize, so CP meals, you may only be covered. Let me back up here. So when operating CEP, any meals not covered by your USDA federal funds will have to be covered by your district. Okay, so if you decide to elect CEP, and no one that I know of, you're really going to have to be a good at managing money if you could operate and cover your program at $2 a meal if you were at those low percentage rates. So anything over, if you operate in the red, anything like that, and you don't have the funds available, then your district is going to have to come out of pocket for those monies. You need to make sure that you're doing those calculations as best you can and having all that data in hand and kind of know how you can operate in your district before determining to operate CEP. Okay. So also for those of you who have excess balances, some have large excess balances. Excess balances can be used to cover meals. They are federal funds. So we are in the process. We have submitted a waiver to FNS, and we have requested that the districts be allowed to use October 31, 2023 for calculating your ISP. What that means is that you will have to use your ISP, your direct cert numbers as of October 31st, 2023, and you will also have to use the same date attendance/enrollment data for calculating your ISP. And because the final rule was effective after June the 30th, CEP election deadline for school year 23-24, FNS will permit us to request a waiver, which we have requested, and allowing mid-year election of CEP. We have put in that waiver. We have requested that October 31st data be used to elect mid-year CEP for January 15, 2024, being the deadline when you're allowed to elect CEP. So you need your October 31st data. Then once you get all that figured out, then you go in and you put that in TMAC, and beginning of school year, you would be able to start the mid-year CEP election. If you do not get that completed by January 15th, you have missed the deadline and you will not be allowed to participate. Okay, so with all that being said, that's a lot, and it's a lot of things to consider for those of you out there who are not operating CEP, and this new rule did impact. First off, it's a district level decision. This is not a decision that we can make for you at the state. It's something you're going to have conversations with your director of schools, your school board, all of your stakeholders at the local level. And see if it's feasible for you to operate this in your district. Also remember that the mid-year election does count as the first year of your 4-year cycle. However, whenever April 1 rolls around and you are allowed to do a new calculation for the next year CEP, you can use the April 1 and recalculate and start over your 4-year cycle like everyone does, or everyone is allowed to do who chooses. Okay, so you're going to need to update your application in TMAC if you choose to do this. Reach out to your consultants, reach out to me, your state agency, and see if you need some help on that application. Let us know, and we're happy to help you. You're going to have to complete the CEP election in TMAC. If you're electing to do this, it's probably something you're not familiar with, so you're probably going to need some help on navigating that and completing that information. So any of this stuff that you need any help with, if you have any questions, or you just want to talk through it and see if it's something you do think is feasible before you go to your director of schools or whatever, please just reach out to your consultant or reach out to your state agency with your questions or guidance. So I'm going to switch gears now and I'm going to talk about the direct certification state matching updates. So we did have an email that went out to all of the districts out there on listserv. It did say that we were experiencing a glitch to the system, which is true. Not everyone is experiencing this. So if you are able to retrieve your data, that is great and everything. But if, like Bill said, you're sitting there and you're spinning and nothing is happening, it has impacted you, the glitch has, and you just need to log off. We will send you an email communication when Link has fixed the glitch, and hopefully that'll be soon, and then you can just continue to do your matching then. So where are we with direct cert state matching currently? So currently 141 SFAs, approximately 75% of you guys out there are using the new direct cert system. Okay. We have, of these 141 SFAs that are using the system, they have a combined total matches of, for SNAP, 169,487, for TANF, 3,896, for foster, 3,943, for Medicaid free, 177,481, and for a total of direct cert kids for free meals of 354,807. In addition to those certified for free meals, we also have a total of 33,771 that have been directly certified for reduced meal. So those are great numbers. It's really increasing the direct cert the districts are experiencing out there and getting, and we're so excited about that. And as most of the districts I spoke to, they are as well. And it eases the pain of some of this process that is taking some extra lift when trying to do these state matches in the new module. So this week, you guys should have received a message. If you are not using this new module, letting you know that I'm available and ready to provide any one-on-one training you may need, answer any questions you may need, just whatever you may need to get started. As we've always told everyone, the number one thing, the first thing you must have is your enrollment file. Once you have that enrollment file and you have it in the correct layout, from my perspective, because I don't know what happens to your export and your upload into your systems, but from my perspective, that enrollment file is one of the biggest lifts there is, and has been, in my experience, one of the most difficult steps the districts have been trying to complete out there. So with that being said, the legacy system will expire January the 1st of 2024. So if you haven't started on this new module, you need to get started. You never know what kind of issues you will run into, and you don't want to wait till the December till Christmas and get started and then run into all these issues, and you don't have the legacy system to lean on to keep you going. Okay. When you do the matching in the new module, be sure to complete all the steps in the process before moving on to the next step, meaning do your possible additional matches. Work through all of those, and once you have worked through those, then move on to your extended eligibilities. And then once you get those done, you will download your entire match list, and that is the one you will export into your system. Be sure to keep your data for a minimum of 3 years plus the current. Historically, TMAC has stored DC data for years. However, going forward, the new module will not store prior year data. So you're going to need to save this and keep it at your location for any kind of auditing purposes, for record keep, for whatever reason. You're going to need to keep this for 3 years plus the current, okay? At a minimum. Some of you may be even more, depending on if you're operating CEP or what you're doing with the data. So, and another thing that is a little different on this now than what used to be is you're now required to do monthly matches. I know that regulations allow for it to be done 3 times a year. However, due to us being approved to participate in the Medicaid demonstration project, this rule has changed and you are now required to do a match monthly. That was a mouthful, so I will move on. As I said, I am Sandy Dawes, and if you have any questions about CEP, mid-year election, or DC matching in new module, or anything else that I may help you with, please do not hesitate to reach out. My contact information is here on the screen, and as always, thank you for feeding the kids out there. I appreciate it, and I'm sure your community appreciates it.
Thank you very much, Sandy. I am Randa Mead. I am the Senior Trainer and Program Specialist. And today I'm going to be talking about some initiatives and consultant team updates. So first, I want to talk about the School Nutrition Program Director Showcase. We want to give a shout out to First Tennessee and the Mid-Cumberland regions, as each of these regions have hosted a director showcase so far this year. I was fortunate enough to be able to attend the one in First Tennessee after their regional meeting, and Jennifer was showing off their program. And just thank you all for continuing to collaborate and partner and show off your programs and encourage one another. If there are other regions that are having showcases, please reach out and let us know so that we can see that continued work. The next thing we want to talk about are unanticipated school closures and weather events standard operating procedure, which is a mouthful, but hopefully we'll get through it. It won't be that bad. So what are we doing? We at the state have a new standard operating procedure for unanticipated school closures and weather events, and it includes you. So what started this new procedure? So we submitted a waiver to USDA, and on August 31st, they approved a waiver that allows local program operators to serve meals in non-congregate settings when congregate meal service is limited due to an unanticipated school closure, which is a natural disaster, an unscheduled major building repair, court orders relating to school safety or other issues, labor management disputes, or if it is approved by the state agency for some other sort of similar unanticipated cause. So what this does not include is your typical snow days or regular closures. So these are only for what we call unanticipated closures. It also does not include closing early for potentially bad weather. So what to expect? Essentially, USDA requests information from us, the state agency, when there's any sort of extreme weather event that they hear of. So in order to get ahead of that, we have created the standard operating procedure where your regional consultant will be reaching out if they hear of weather in their region that might apply to you. So what you can help do is if your district is impacted by a serious or extreme weather event, you can reach out and say, hey, we have this weather event happen, schools are going to be closed, and what are our options for feeding? So if you do have an unanticipated school closure due to weather, we're going to ask you a series of questions, which are, Are you having food service interruptions? Has this had any impact on food loss? Are there delays in meal service? Are there any school sites that are closed because of the weather? If so, how is it impacting you? And essentially, your regional consultant is going to gather this information and submit it up to Bill, who will then be able to submit it to USDA. So what can you do during unanticipated school closures? So you do have the option to operate the seamless summer option to fill the gap in food service for students. That is if there is not learning occurring. You can apply to use the non-congregate waiver for unanticipated school closures by filling out the general waiver flexibility form. And we can approve non-congregate meals with or without virtual learning for up to 10 consecutive operating days for an SFA. And so why this specifies with or without virtual learning is that if there is virtual learning, you would continue to operate the regular school lunch program and school breakfast program. If there's an unanticipated school closure and there is no virtual learning, that's when you would switch to SSO. And now we have a district highlight from Leslie.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I am highlighting, well, first of all, I'm Leslie. I am the first region senior coordinator. That's the new title. So I am highlighting Bristol City Schools. Jennifer, which is the supervisor of Bristol City, she has been going into the beautiful mountains of Western North Carolina. The first time she went was back in September to pick up Honeycrisp apples from a local orchard there. The name of that orchard is Sailor Orchard, and it is located in Bakersville, North Carolina. This orchard was originally planted in 1963, and the Sailor family has continued to work that orchard up until current time. So when Jennifer went up there in September, not only did she pick up fresh, delicious apples for her students in Bristol City, but Mr. Saylor also provided some lessons on how to check the sugar and starch content of apples and also how to check the pressure of the apples to know if they are actually ripe. And so Jennifer, as I said, went in September. She also went back this week to pick up some more apples. And I believe she also picked up some sweet potatoes. And then she'll be going back in a couple more weeks. So we just wanted to highlight Bristol City and then taking the extra steps to incorporate farmer to school in their district and ensuring that the students in Bristol City have locally grown apples to enjoy. So thank you, Jennifer, and Bristol City Schools.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Leslie. Here, I will now pass it over to Maria.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. And that was a perfect segue from Bristol City for farm to school updates. So we'll get to more farm to school items here in a moment. I am Marlia Finch, the Supplemental Program Senior Manager and Special Projects, and we will dive into grant updates. So we are working on round 4 supply chain assistant grants items. We're awaiting just a couple of data points so we can get that allotment formula ready for you guys so we can issue the award funds to you. You should be seeing round 4 supply chain assistant grant money in about a month. That is our guesstimated time frame. If we have any updates or anything, we will communicate that out to you. Moving on to the fresh fruit and vegetable program, just a reminder, it is pushing that 60-day mark to get your August claims in. And since it is that first allocation period, this is a friendly reminder to get your August and September claims in so we can finish out that first allocation. And speaking of your allocations, if you run into an issue and you think that you may be overspending, please reach out to me and we can see what we can do to help prior to submitting claims. It's a lot easier to try to reallocate funds on the front end than the back end. So please just reach out to me. I'm happy to work with you on making sure that your allocations are your allocations and you get what you need. So again, fresh fruit and vegetable Those allocations are in TMAC. So if you need a reminder of how much you have for each of your allocations, check in TMAC. If you don't know where to find that, I'm happy to walk you through that. And then the local Food for Schools grant. If you have submitted your documents for reimbursement up until this point, all these summer claims have been processed or they are currently in the process of getting you your reimbursement fund. So you should see those. I'll guesstimate probably within the next month because they are in various spots in the process. So you will get those funds shortly. And equipment grants. Everyone loves equipment grants. If you are a past recipient, please be sure to get all your required documents for reimbursement into Lindsay Paul, and we will get those sorted to the right person and get you reimbursed for your equipment grants. As for past recipients, current recipients, I know you're still in the bid process for some of those equipment items. But as soon as you get that equipment and have it installed and you have all the documents needed, please send them over so we can get those reimbursed. And then next round of equipment grants, we've already gotten a few questions. The applications should be sent out to districts mid-November, so be on the lookout for that. I will give you an insider tip. We got about $2 million last year for grant funds, so we were able to supply and award many more equipment grants than we usually do. This year, we're back to our normal allotment around that $600,000 mark. So just giving you a heads up, not as many districts will be awarded this year. However, please feel free to apply to see if you will get the award this year. All right, on to some more fun stuff. So it's Farm to School Month, and today just so happens to be Tennessee Crunch Day. So I hope everyone crunched into your apples at noon today, so you could all hear the nice loud crunch of all the students crunching into fresh produce. And if you have any videos or photos that you took today during Tennessee Crunch, please email those over to Lindsay, and we are happy to highlight those in our weekly newsletters, reports we send to USDA, any highlights, and a variety of newsletters for the department. We are always looking for more information, photos, videos, just overall activities that you are doing in the nutrition realm within your school districts, because we like to show you off because you guys are doing great things. And that is in general, any farm to school activities that you have done this month or plan to do for Farm to School Month or in general, please send those over to Lindsay and Brittany, and we're happy to use those photos and videos for overall school nutrition promotion. And I know a few of you have sent in questions about the Farm to School census. Yes, it is out. And yes, it is coming from a third-party vendor. So if you are getting any emails from Farm to School Census at dir/online.com, it is real. It is the USDA's vendor this year for the Farm to School Census. Be sure to complete the surveys that they are sending. So we have current information regarding farm to school activities across the state, because those activities and that information that they collect through the census, it helps with future funding. So it's really helping the state if you submit your census data information. And fun fact, we have 8 new counties since last October that have started to participate in farm to school activities. So we're just, increasing farm to school activity across the board. Let's keep up the great work. We love to see it. And if you want to get started with anything farm to school related, please reach out to Lindsay, and she is great at connecting you with local resources or other resources she may have. Lots of farm to school updates, and it just so happens to be Farm to School Month, so that was perfect timing. So our junior chef applications just went out in the weekly update this week. So be on the lookout for that. The applications are due January 19th to Lindsay. And then our state competition will be held at the Nashville State Community College campus in Antioch. Again, like we had last year. So it's a lovely large commercial kitchen. All 8 teams can compete at the same time. So it was a great time. If you're interested in Junior Chef, please reach out to Lindsay. She can answer all of your questions. And we look forward to seeing all those applications come in. We are also hosting the Southeast Regional Competition in May. So that's all 8 states in the Southeast region that will be competing in Nashville this year. So we welcome you to compete in the state competition in hopes that you will be competing at the regional competition. And last but not least, the USDA Farm to School grant, the RFA, is now open. We have that information here on the slide for you, and we will put that in any recap emails and in the weekly update next week. USDA has $12 million this year to give out for a variety of farm to school grants. If you have any questions or need any information for the farm to school grants in particular, we have linked the RFA online in this slide deck, and we are happy to share that out as well. And those applications are due by Friday, January the 12th. So that gives you a little time to plan and get those applications in for that farm to school grant. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. My contact information is on the slide, and I will pass it off to Marissa.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marlia, and thank you all so much for allowing me to join you today. I just wanted to give a brief update on the rural non-congregate summer meals that took place here in Tennessee this summer and all the great work that was had. Next slide. All right, I had the opportunity to get across the state, and I was really enjoyed getting to see many of you in action as you were serving summer meals in the non-congregate setting. We know that when Congress passed the bill in December of 22 for the implementation of this new opportunity to serve non-congregate meals in the rural areas for this past summer, it was a very short notice and a very quick turnaround for both our state agencies as well as the sponsors on the ground. However, I want to say that Tennessee is really, you guys really knocked it out of the park, and we are so excited to be able to support you, and we're looking forward to growing even more next year and helping to support that as well. But I wanted to share the map of the state here. Excuse my highlighting abilities, but I think you get the point. I've been collaborating with both DHS and DOE to get the totals of where the sites were located. So you'll notice that there were 11 SFSP sponsors serving approximately 165 rural non-congregate sites across 20 counties, and those are in orange. There are 31 school food authorities who served at approximately 144 rural non-congregate sites across 29 counties, and they were in yellow. There were 4 overlaps in the green, where there were both SSO and SFSP sponsors, but there was a total of 45 counties serving the rural non-congregate, meaning there was at least one site in each of these counties that a family could pick up meals for their students. So huge kudos to all of you. This is awesome, and we're excited to expand even more if possible next year. We know that USDA is they will be submitting their final ruling, hopefully by the end of the year, and then we can get to planning again going forward. Next slide. With that being said, No Kid Hungry is committed. We're one of the only national organizations that is committed to supporting the rural non-congregate meal service across the country. And I just wanted to share that these were the grants that went out. And I will say that Tennessee had the second highest, only to California, in the amount of grant dollars that went out specifically for the rural non-congregate service this summer. So kudos to all of you. We appreciate your ambition to get out there and serve as many kids as possible. Like I said, we had 17 grants go across the state for a little over $300,000, just behind California. Next slide, please. You'll notice that as the breakdown of those grant dollars went out, the largest majority of those grant dollars were to our school food authorities who were implementing the rural non-congregate option. So we're excited about that, but also had several of our community-based organizations who were available to fill in some gaps as well. So we're thankful for them as well. Next slide. We did break down to better understand exactly how those grant dollars were used. We know that when you made your budgets last year for this year, or this past year, you had no idea that rural non-congregate would have even been an option. So staffing was a huge cost for everybody just because you didn't know that you would have the opportunity to expand and reach as many kids as possible. So we understood that and were able to help support in staffing, but also in support of purchasing meal service supplies, outreach as far as we had a couple billboards that went up across the state, but other outreach materials to let families know that this was an option as well. But also your typical milk coolers, storage, tote bags that were super helpful in getting the multiple meals out. I know some of you all use those and families really appreciated that. So we just wanted to give you an update, and we are going to continue to offer this commitment to you all as we can going forward. Next slide, please. With that being said, folks are really looking to Tennessee and the other states, of course, who implemented and had a successful summer rural non-congregate. But just wanted to share that we want to know what the wins were, what were some of the challenges, and some of the lessons learned. And the way that we're doing that is by hosting debrief sessions that would allow us to learn a little bit more from both school food authorities and community-based sponsors about how their programs ran. We hosted our meeting with our SFAs right after S&P Academy, and appreciate all of you for your feedback. I am in the middle of doing community-based sponsor meetings this week and next, so looking forward to learning from them as well and being able to share that back out on a larger scale. Our Center for Best Practices team is hosting national state agency calls for our state agencies to be able to come together from across the country to share what they're learning and opportunities for them to learn more and work together on that aspect as well. We are planning a national summer summit that will be focused specifically on summer EBT and summer rural non-congregate that will be in early 2024. This will be for a select group, but we are looking forward to being able to share out exactly what was learned, and looking forward to sharing out Tennessee specific trainings, resources, and grants that will be available. So be on the lookout. And I know your wheels are already spinning as you are ready to plan again for next summer. Had the opportunity to go to Bledsoe County. You'll see the pictures here, and this picture of the traffic line I shared with our entire team at No Kid Hungry, and people were just amazed and so thankful for the work that you all did all summer. Last slide, please. So we appreciate you. We thank you for allowing us to come alongside you and help to feed as many kids as possible. If there's anything that we can do to help support you, please feel free to reach out. There's my email. You can always fill out our inquiry form. But I think at this point, everybody just emails me. So I appreciate it. If you have questions or anything to support you on as far as expanding breakfast opportunities and grants related to that, let me know. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Marissa. We really appreciate you being on and sharing about rural non-congregate. I know I'm very excited to see what happens with rural non-congregate next summer, and looking forward to learning more at the meeting that you guys are hosting. Okay, so here is our general contact info for the school nutrition program. I did see a handful of questions come through, and I know we're a little short on time, but I think we'll have time to get through most of those. So this first question says, I had dialogue with both our tech and federal projects department about their funding model and formulas. The tech department deferred to federal projects for Title I. We received questions about free and reduced rates for grants. No one in our district wants to publish these, but I feel considerable pressure to do so. What is the common practice in our state? Is it to use the direct certification numbers 1.6 times, the ISP in each school, even if the school is not CEP?
Dr. Dawes, any feedback there from your perspective?
First, guys, I want to apologize because for whatever reason, my screen disappeared and I couldn't see what you were seeing. So I hope that what I was saying was correlating to what you were seeing on the screen. But anyway, I want to apologize for that. And as for this question, I think what they're asking is for Title I out there, what are most districts using? Are they using the ISP with the multiplier to figure their Title I funding? There used to be what they call BEP formula, whatever. So it all varies. There is some documentation out there. There's the resources that share the different options that a district may choose to use when determining their Title I funding, etc. So I suggest you look at those resources. And then once you look at those, if you need additional guidance, just reach out and we'll do our best to try and find you some guidance or provide you with some assistance.
Yeah, and I could also at the state level reach out to our sister team over in federal projects and see what they say. But I have a feeling, I was in federal projects for about 5 years. I have a feeling they would say that's a local decision and that needs to be collaboratively discussed. Margaret, it sounds like you've tried to do that. So I'll reach out to them and see what their response would be on something like that as well.
The next question says, did I hear that we could use excess balance to pay for the shortfall in revenue over expenses in CEP elections?
That is correct. Excess balance are federal funds, and you can use federal funds to pay for meals. So yes, that was on our last USDA call, that excess balances can be used to cover CEP meals.
And I think we also had a lot of internal dialogue about that because I don't think that's been necessarily the way it's been articulated in the past from this team. So that was something new for us as well, but that is the guidance that the USDA has.
When would the mid-year election start?
From if our waivers are approved and with our conversations with USDA and an internal dialogue, it will begin at the beginning of the next semester, which in most cases for districts out there is like January 2nd or 3rd, whenever you return for your mid-school year. So January 1, whatever that may be.
I think that's typically for most school districts about January 6th or something like that. But I think you get the point. It's when you come back off that New Year's break.
I have 2 schools that are not CEP. Are you saying I can use 10-1 data to potentially qualify them for CEP and get them on a different CEP cycle from the other 14 CEP schools without changing the current school cycle?
You can use October 31st enrollment and DC data to determine the ISP for those 2 schools. If those 2 and if they qualify and you want to elect those CEP in those 2 schools, then you could start a cycle for just those 2 schools by adding them mid-year this year.
All right, and then the next question was about equipment grants and getting your equipment installed on time. And so that is definitely a kind of case-by-case thing. And if you have issues, you can reach out to Marlia. She was gonna follow up with the person who had that question directly. So that is actually all the questions we have in the chat at this time. We can wait a couple of seconds to see if there are any more, but I haven't seen any come in recently, so we'll just give it a couple seconds.
We appreciate you spending your time with us today. Hope you've gotten some capacity built around the topics that we shared. I don't think anything today was necessarily brand new. If you're not looking at that weekly newsletter and making sure that you're up to date on everything that's going on at the state agency that impacts you, make sure that you do that on a weekly basis. I know our communications team works really hard on that, and we try to articulate everything as transparently as we can here at the state agency for your benefit. So make sure you're up to date on those weekly newsletters.
And there was one question about direct cert upload requirements. So Sandy, I'll make sure you get that person's contact information to follow up with them directly. And then another CEP question, which says, if we have half CEP and the other half are not, can we use 1031 data to regroup all of them?
You can only use 1031 data for the districts or the schools or the group of schools, whichever way you're going to do it, that were not operating CEP this year, but now qualify due to the new ISP of 25% being put in place.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining today. We appreciate you being here, and we will be in touch soon. Hope you all have a great rest of your week and weekend, since it is Thursday. Bye everyone.